Good morning and welcome back to Miniature Monday here on Gaming with ADHD, where today we're going to continue our look at the Hachette Publications Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol magazine. Now, for those of you who have not seen the previous videos in this series, this is going to cover issues 23 through 26 of the subscription. And basically what Hachette is doing is every month for US customers, you receive a shipment with 4 magazines that have models and paint and brushes and tools and all sorts of things for you to get into the Warhammer hobby. Now, I am doing this because I just thought it would be interesting. Get the models, paint them, review the magazine, let you know whether or not I think it's a good deal. Now, up front, I will tell you that every month it does run about $80 for the subscription. And that covers all 4 magazines plus the premium subscription where they are sending some larger kits like tanks and monsters, things like that. So, I'll review those obviously as they come out. But that's basically what we're doing here. So, before we get into it, do make sure you are subscribed to the channel. I try to put out a few videos each week covering all sorts of tabletop gaming content. Also do some live stream covering board games, role-playing, miniatures, pretty much anything related to tabletop gaming, and I would love for you to come along. In addition, if you want to help out the channel, there are some affiliate links to DriveThruRPG and Amazon down below. No requirement that you use those, but absolutely appreciated when you do. So, with that said, let's get into this. All right, so this is issue 23. This is obviously going to be the first one for this particular shipment. Now, it was issue 22 where we actually got the first model for the Eldar range. So they've been doing Space Marines and Tyranids for the first 2, which was actually kind of nice because you had 2 combat patrols going at the same time. And so now we're getting into a third one. So they're just sending Eldar stuff for now, and then they'll move into other combat patrols as they go. So real quick, in this particular magazine, you get 2 out of 3 sprues for an Eldar Guardian squad. So you're going to get 10 Guardians and a weapons platform. And as you can see, this is part 1 of 2. So issue 24 has the other sprue. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to pull it out now. All right. So all 3 parts to the sprue. Now, I'm going to point this out, but there's a reason for it. You'll understand a little bit later. This particular sprue is from 2022. I think it was. Yes, 2022. You can see that there on the frame. Now, this is a bit of a departure from the Space Marines and the Tyranids, because this is a full multi-part kit. You can pose things a lot more to your liking. Lots of different weapon options, whether it's pistols, rifles, specialist weapons, things like that. So this set is going to be a lot more, I don't want to say difficult, but it's not as beginner friendly. You do have to have glue for these models. They do give you a lot of options. It looks like you've got heads for Dire Avengers. But I think these are supposed to be just ran as Guardians. So there's probably going to be quite a few leftover bits out of this. But that is perfectly fine. Regardless, quality of the models is really good for some nice troops. We've also got a heavy weapons platform here. So obviously multi-part, lots of big Eldari weapons. You know what? They're still Eldar to me. I'm old. Cut me some slack. Anyways, but yeah, there's it's a good set of models. So let's take a look at the magazine. All right. Also, I will point out in magazine 1, you get no bases. All of the bases for your models are contained in the second magazine. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. All right, what do we get here? So obviously, actually, I'll point this out, especially for the new players. So everything is color-coded. Blue for building, red for reading. There's also yellow that comes in between these for painting. Black for collecting. This is where you get data sheets, things like that. And then play. This is going to be different scenarios, missions. There were, for the Space Marine versus Tyranids, there were a lot of tutorial bits. And yeah, then starting with the end of that series, you had a lot more, or it's starting to get into full rules from Warhammer 40,000 10th edition. All right, so we've got our build instructions. You are going to need glue for this. They do not include any, so keep that in mind. But they do talk about the different options, what parts go where, because even though it's multi-part and customizable, there are still some parts that have to go with other pieces, especially when you get into like bodies and legs and things. And then building your heavy weapon platform. And then we get some of our reading for the Eldar. So talking about the Eldar weapons, the Eldar armory, the paths of the Asuryani. Oh, the Eldari of the craft worlds. So, okay. Anyways, this is going to be interesting for me. I haven't dug into these guys in many, many years, and they have revamped a lot of it. Like I said, they're still Eldar to me. They went through a name change years ago that not necessarily a big fan of myself, but not my choice. All right, we then have some fiction on the Warp and the Great Rift. So just a couple little paragraphs. Eldar unit names. So they give you a couple of tables for naming, leaders, units. And then we have some play. So we're going to get into faction abilities. So we've got the Oath of Moment for the Space Marines. Tutorial on how to use it. Okay, combat patrol tutorial, so how to use it in an actual game. So they're going to walk through different phases and examples of just kind of a little scenario and then a bit of a recap. So not so much scenario based, more kind of tutorial for reading, but that's fine. All right, so again, bag of bases. And let's take a look at part 2 of the Eldar. All right, so no build instructions. Those were in part 1. But now we get the painting instructions. Now, again, keeping in mind they don't talk about priming your miniatures. I'm still priming the miniatures. I am also trying to paint rules as written. So I'll be doing the same thing with the Eldar once I get to them, but that's a separate issue. So again, just walking through steps. Obviously the majority color, adding additional bits in, and then where your work in progress should be. I really like these because as I'm going through painting and trying to follow their steps, it gives me like some reference points to know, okay, this is what I should have done by the time I'm done with this particular page. So I really like that. All right, we've got some reading on the fall of the Eldari, the birth of Slaanesh, the Webway, Forge Worlds. So still giving a lot of Imperial background. We've got Silver Templars Chapter 6. If you have not seen my Sunday Storytime videos, I'm debating reading that one, but I'm trying to mix it up through different short stories that I find, so we'll see. All right, we've then got the collecting sheet for the Guardians. And then we have scenario 18. So this is going to be more Farseer versus Tyranids. So bringing in... oh, this is... I think this is dealing with reserves. Because this is the setup. Oh, also says use battle maps 1 and 2. So I was complaining in the last shipment because they sent a second map that was identical. I'm like, oh, why not give us a new design, something that looks different? But if we're getting into 2 map games, that's actually good to have, you know, identical maps. So I stand corrected. Sorry, magazine making people. Anyways, so more of that scenario. Cool. I know. Super exciting, isn't this? All right. Now, for issue 25, we have a paint issue. Not an issue with the paint, but an issue that comes with paint. All right, and in this case, it's actually 2 shades. So we've got Nuln Oil. Here, I'll bring this up to the camera. So we've got Nuln Oil and Carroburg Crimson. So these are the first 2 shades or washes or whatever you want to call them. I have not used any GW shades yet. So I have heard glorious tales of Nuln Oil. I usually use... Army Painter Dark Tone or Strong Tone, so it's going to be interesting to see the difference on those. Of course, I will be changing them over to my dropper bottle. We also get the medium shading brush. These are interesting. They're definitely a synthetic of some sort, but they seem decent. Oh, I'll point it out now since we get this one. This shipment also included 3 additional brushes. So we've got the medium base, the large base. So here, let me take the little caps off so you can see. I have not used any of these yet. Obviously, new shipment, I wouldn't have used them yet anyways. But I have my brushes that I really like, but I am curious about these. Ooh, definitely stiff. Got some starch on those still. But so far, they've sent 6 brushes. So it's actually a good variety. I'm going to have to... But they're white and so clean, and I kind of don't want to use them right now. All right, let's check out issue 25. So I have a feeling this is going to be mostly painting. Yeah, we've got paint, read, and play. No new collecting stuff. Obviously no building. But they are still teaching us how to paint our Tyranids. More on the Space Marines. Okay, so this is how to use that that Carroburg Crimson. So that's going to be really interesting. Very, very pink. Here, let me zoom in on that. Very, very pink look on those. whereas they're normally white. So I wonder if you're going to go back and kind of do like a dry brush over that, or just kind of leave it as is. So I'm not sure I'm going to go as heavy as they do here, but we'll see. All right. And then where to put the crimson and the Nuln oil on the Space Marines. Dealing with bases, dealing with the big Tyranids. And we've got some more Eldar stuff as well. Where to put the Nuln oil, putting the crimson on the cloak to kind of shade that up. Interesting. It's been really interesting painting these, like, as we've been calling it, painting them raw. Just because of, you know, it's making me think differently about, you know, the steps and what I'm doing. So, but it's been interesting. All right, we then have more Eldar background. So the same hand Wild Riders. I think it's the Wild Riders. Which is, so same hand are, yeah, there we go. Wild Rider clans. So back in yon olden times, if you wanted to run like all Eldar jet bikes, you would do same hand. All right, then we've got the Eldari gods, or their pantheon. Phoenix Lords, Incarn, Avatar of Cain. And then we get into Tyranid faction abilities. And a Tyranid tutorial. So I realize there's still a lot to learn, but I am a little disappointed that they're not doing more with the Eldar stuff. There's still a lot of Tyranid and Space Marines. So especially if this is, if you only started getting the magazines for the Eldar stuff, you're gonna have a lot of content that isn't relevant to you. So I'm kind of mixed on that. All right, this is why I pointed out the date on the Guardians. Like I said, those were 2022. This is a Wraith Lord, which I'm actually kind of excited about. This sprue is from, I can zoom in and probably show it right here, 2006. This is a 20-year-old model. I think it's really, really interesting because also if you look, there's so much dead space between the parts. Modern Games Workshop stuff is packed to the gills. Different options, different bits, just being a lot more efficient with how the space on the sprue is used, which then is going to impact, you know, packaging and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really, really interesting what they're doing. But overall, I think the model still looks good. So I'm not complaining about the model itself. I just think it's interesting, you know, when we compare, you know, I mean, these are roughly the same size. So just comparing the part density here versus here. I think that's really, really interesting. Anyways, I think that's just the business side of my brain checking it. We also get a nice sculpted base on this one, which is cool. I have no problems with sculpted bases. Way less work for me to do. All right, we've got our final magazine for the day. So we've got our Wraith Lord. We're going to get all 5 sections this time. So we've got our how to build. This I like. They are talking about options. So you've got different options for feet, like, you know, so 1 flat, 1 walk, or technically they have 2 flat, 2 walking. You know, so you can pose it a little differently. But then they have different arms, different tabard pieces. So they give you a lot of options to work with on this. This is actually really, really cool. I don't know why, but I'm really excited for this model. We then get our paint. So starting Mephiston red, Abaddon black. Obviously at this point you have a decent collection of paints. So they're just kind of zipping right along with that. And then we get more background, so spirit stones, more information about Slaanesh. Is this the Eldar magazine or the Chaos magazine? More information about units, more background on the warp, the collector card for the Wraith Lord, and then its data sheet. And then a nice little scenario for Wraith Lord versus a whole bunch of Termagants. Oh, no. Termagants, Tyranid Prime, and Von Ryan's Leapers. It's like a whole bunch of everything. Cool. All right. So, I probably should have looked up the regular costs on the model. So let me look at that real quick. Let's see. Xenos armies. Eldari. Face only. Okay, there we go. Okay. So, we've got a Guardian squad. Which I am not finding. Oh, there it is. Okay, so Guardian Defenders, $60. A Wraith Lord, which is $62.50, so we're up to $122.50. A couple bottles of paint, so $132. Another brush. I think those are like $8, so $140. Magazines. Yes, I realize that you could technically toss those out. I like to give them credit for about like $2.50 each, so that's another $10. So we're up to about $150 worth of stuff, and like I said, this was $80 for me. If you were paying the cheaper price, it would be about $15 each. So about $60 total. So even at the higher price, I absolutely like this is absolutely a good deal. I do, like I said, wish that there was more Eldar stuff going on in all the bits and the magazine and the fiction, that kind of stuff. I think they're still doing a lot with the Space Marines and the Tyranids when I'd rather they be doing more with the Eldar, because this section is not going to last that long, I don't think. I mean, this is the first full shipment, and it's the 5th total, so I think we've got one, maybe 2 more shipments with Eldar stuff in them. So we'll see. Again, dollar for dollar, I do still think it's a good idea. And I'm still having fun with it. I will say they did announce that they're doing an Age of Sigmar Spearhead. I'm debating doing that one. Do me a favor, put in the comments if you'd like to see that one covered. I'm not sure I'm willing to commit to both of them at the same time, but I would absolutely love to hear from you guys and see if it's something that you would like to follow along with, or if I should just stick with the 40K. I will admit I am much more interested in sci-fi over fantasy, but I'll put it out to the community, see what they all want to see. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what you think. I will obviously be back with painting streams, more videos, so make sure you're subscribed. I appreciate you being here and spending some time with me. But with all that said, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here, and we will talk to you next time. Thanks, everyone.